Hello and welcome back. Today's video is going to be about my 10 most used eyeshadow palettes. I decided to do this video because a few weeks ago I did a video called my 10 least used eyeshadow palettes, and so I thought I would do the opposite. These are palettes that I have used a lot, and a lot of these you've definitely seen on my channel before. I did decide not to include anything that has been Pan That palette, which there's only 2 in my collection, but obviously I've used those a lot. But I will link my Pan That palette playlist if you do want to see that, and I'll also link my 10 least used palettes, although I have been trying to use those, and I'm wearing one of them today, one of the Fenty Snap Shadows. Those are all great palettes, but for some reason they get neglected. And some of these also you may have seen in my Project 100 Uses project pan, where I am keeping track of my usage on a lot of my palettes, but definitely not all. So some of these I do know exactly how many times I've used them, and others it's, you know, more of a guesstimate, but they're just generally palettes I reach for a lot. Let's just get into it. I'll start with this one. This is the Tartelette Toasted palette. And I gotta say, I reach for this quite a bit. There is no pan or anything like that on it, but I have taken this traveling, and also this is one where I often just reach for it for one shade. Like if I need a good brow bone highlight or a dark brown for the lower lash line, you know, or just a neutral color for the crease, I tend to reach for this one quite a bit. I really do like this palette. It is a very standard warm neutral palette, but the quality is there and I enjoy that quite a bit. Alrighty, this next one I have used a lot, but it's gonna look like I've hardly used it, and it's the Pat McGrath Mothership 2. I really do like this palette. I've been raving about Pat McGrath a lot on my channel this year. I love her products, I really do. And this palette, this one is in my Project 100 Uses, and I've used it well over 70 times. And honestly, it looks brand new. It's crazy. These are very tightly pressed eyeshadows, and I think you get a lot of product in here. Yeah, I've used this a ton, and it looks untouched. It's crazy. So I've never seen anyone hit pan on one of these palettes, but honestly, I'd be curious to see what it looks like because I'm sure it takes a really long time. This one is amazing. I really do enjoy it. You know, it's $125, which you're partly paying for the packaging, but also takes a long time to hit pan. So that's definitely a bonus if you're gonna spend that much money. Alrighty, here's another formula that is also hard to hit pan on, and that is the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded. Urban Decay, also very tightly pressed eyeshadows. I've used this palette over 100 times. And I have pan on this one here. Obviously that is my most used shade, this color Endgame. I've used that quite a bit on the lower lash line and also to fill in my eyebrows, but I've reached into all these other colors quite a bit as well, and it looks like I'm nowhere hitting pan on any of these, which is pretty crazy, but yeah. I really do enjoy this palette. I've talked about it a lot also on my channel. One of my favorite warm neutral palettes. It is beautiful, and I really do like the looks that I get with it. Let's talk about a drugstore one, the Milani Bold Obsessions. This is so fantastic. One of my favorite palettes in my whole collection. By the way, I did recently rank my entire eyeshadow palette collection. If you want to see that, I'll link it in the description box. This one is so good. No pan, but I have some pretty decent dips going on these. This is also one where I often will reach for like the dark brown or this one, just for those very standard type colors like a brow bone highlight or a dark brown on the lower lash line. This is one of my go-tos for those things as well, but these shimmers are amazing and I absolutely love them. Yeah, I think this is fantastic. One of the best drugstore products I've tried. Unfortunately, I do think they are discontinuing these. They have new palettes, which I've also talked about. I don't think are as good as that one. Alrighty, let's talk about these three because these are my Anastasia palettes and I reach for all three of these quite a bit. I did mention in another video, but I don't know if it's up yet. There have been a lot of issues with this brand lately. I won't get into all of that, but I have decided I won't be purchasing from them anymore, but I will use the products that I have, and I really do love these. The oldest one is Soft Glam, and I have quite a few pans on this one. Really nice palette. It's warm neutrals with also some pink neutrals, and yes, this one is great. Love it, love it, love it. Also the Sultry palette. This is very cool toned, also gorgeous. Another favorite, and I have several pans on this one as well. And then last but not least is the original Norvina palette, which I think is my favorite out of all three of these that I own. Also have several pans happening here. This one is really beautiful. I like that it is a combination of colorful eyeshadows with neutral eyeshadows, and yeah, this one is a really, really nice color story. These are ones that I will say I have often reached for on like special occasion type things, or just, you know, if I want to look a little bit fancier. You know, these are three of my favorite palettes in my collection, and I have used them a ton. I did want to talk about my most used out of my Juvia's palettes. I love Juvia's Blaze. I've talked about that a ton. It is one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. And the Saharan 2, this is an older one. I've had this for over 2.5 years. And it is just really, really good quality. It is also one of their more neutral color stories. They do tend to have a lot of very colorful palettes, but this one and the original Warrior are quite neutral, and this one is my most used. It is fantastic. I love this peachy metallic. I love the blues. I love this kind of rose goldish type color, and I do reach for the matte shades a lot. Often if I want, you know, a really warm in the crease or out of corner, or just a dark brown for the lower lash line. You know, this is an all-around good palette. The formula is amazing, and yes, definitely one of my favorites by Juvia's, which is also one of my favorite brands overall for eyeshadow. Alrighty, let's talk about my most expensive eyeshadow palette, which is the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. I love this palette. I've talked about it quite a bit, and I have used it quite a bit, which is great because it was very expensive. So I want to get my money's worth out of this one. I am nowhere close to hitting pan on anything in here. But again, Natasha Denona formula, from what I've seen of people that have hit pan on her eyeshadows, it takes a long, long time. I do have some pretty good dips going in a lot of these different colors, and the quality is impeccable on this one. It is one of the best formulated palettes in my collection. Honestly, if I could transform all the eyeshadows I own into this formula, that would be amazing. Natasha Denona's mattes blend very easily, and these shimmers are gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I've raved about this one a lot. It is fantastic, and I am glad that I'm using it a lot. I want to use this even more, considering how expensive it was. I did get it full price, $129, which, yeah, that is very, very pricey. Alrighty, and last up is the BH Cosmetics Weekend Festival palette. This is the first palette I think I did a full review on my channel. This came out about 2.5 years ago when I was first starting my channel, and I still love it. I think this is one of my favorite palettes overall, and it is definitely my most used colorful palette. I have hit pan on this gold shade here, and I reach for this quite a bit when I'm doing colorful looks, even if I'm just using one shade, because this blends very well. This is such high quality. It is crazy. I love the BH formula, at least the 3 palettes I have from them. I would love to have more because I'm just very, very impressed. These metallics are so foiled and smooth. I don't even need to spray my brush when I'm using this, and the matte shades blend fantastically. I can't think of anything bad to say regarding this palette because it is just that good. I do wish that they had not discontinued it. They have released those several other festival palettes, you know, in this range with other colorful eyeshadows, and I've heard great reviews about those as well, but none of them intrigued me as much as this one did, so I never purchased those. But yes, this one is fantastic overall, and I really do recommend the BH formula. Like I said, I have 3 palettes from them, and it is one of my favorite formulas, which is crazy because it's so cheap. I think when I got this, it was, I think $18 or $20, which is pretty crazy, honestly, considering how good it is. Alrighty, that is it for this video. Please let us know, what are your most used palettes? What do you reach for on a regular basis? What do you reach for when you want an extra special look? I'm very curious. That is it, and if you're interested, you can check out my 10 least used palettes video, but I am trying to use those more now because I do like them. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.